Hello everybody, thank you very much for joining me today for another Twilight Zone video in my Twilight Zone ranking series, where I rank every episode of the original Twilight Zone from my least favorite to my favorite. Today I'm going to be talking about number 88, One for the Angels, written by Rod Serling and directed by Robert Parrish. This is a season 1 episode, and as always there will be spoilers. So, One for the Angels was actually the second Twilight Zone episode to air, and it's a good solid episode. It's kind of a light episode, but it's not a total comedy. The episode does have a little bit of a serious side to it as well, and the mood really worked for me in this episode. So this one's about a pitchman named Lou Bookman, and things seem to be going okay for him until he gets a visit from Mr. Death. So that's our premise, which is kind of interesting. Ed Wynn as Lou Bookman is his usual charming self, but for me the standout in this episode is actually Murray Hamilton as Mr. Death. He plays the role in an interesting way that really worked for me. I'm not really sure why, but I just really liked the way he played the role. So this one starts with Mr. Bookman as a pitchman, and he sells things basically on the street, and things seem to be normal for him until this Mr. Death comes to visit him, and basically we learn it's Mr. Bookman's time to go. And Bookman tries to make a bargain. He says he really wants to make one last sales pitch with Mr. Death, so Mr. Death reluctantly agrees. Then Bookman basically reveals that he doesn't plan to make this pitch, so he thinks he's tricked Mr. Death. And I have to say, this is an episode where you do have to kind of just go with certain plot elements. Bookman seemed to get out of this pretty easily. Like, I could see other people getting out of their time to go pretty easily as well. So Death says this is fine, but someone will have to take your place, which is also a strange way for the process to work. But again, I guess you just have to kind of go with it. So at this point, Mr. Death decides that a young girl is going to take Mr. Bookman's place. And that also seems a bit harsh. But anyway, this young girl gets hit by a truck in an accident. And Mr. Death says at midnight she will have to go. So Mr. Bookman changes his mind. He says he'll go, but Death says it's too late. So to distract Death, Bookman comes up with this plan. He's going to try selling him some stuff with the ultimate pitch, and he just tries to sell Mr. Death a whole bunch of stuff. So what happens is, of course, predictably, Mr. Death misses his appointment with the little girl at 12, and the girl lives. But because Mr. Bookman got to make his ultimate pitch, he decides he will go with Death after all, and it looks like he's still going to be a salesman as well, so that's kind of interesting. So this is a fine episode. It's fast-paced. A lot happens in a half hour. I do have one complaint, though, about this episode. The actual pitch to Mr. Death is not that great. It seems a little bit unbelievable that he'd be that into this pitch. I mean, Mr. Death acts like Bookman is the greatest salesman of all time. So despite some plot conveniences, One for the Angels is a solid, entertaining episode if you just kind of go with it. You know, it's got really good performances, and it's just a pretty likable and clever episode overall. And that's why it comes in for me at number 88 on the list. As always, feel free to tell me what you think of One for the Angels, if you like it or not. Thanks very much for your support, and thanks for watching.